Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about this piece I'm working on, and originally I was going to use a torch on it, burn it, and get it nice and scorched, and then use that as the base of it, and then pour the epoxy and to fill it in. However, my torch was low on gas and did not get very far. I was going to do multiples of these anyway. Some I'm going to paint and do them in different varieties. So my wife is high risk for the virus, and with limited budget, I'll pick up some gas for the torch down the road when I need to go out. Everything we do is based on needing to go out, so I don't want to just pick things up right now. So that being said, we run into something like that, we just changed course a little bit and decided I'll go ahead and coat this with epoxy to seal it. And we're going to talk about degassing. I know it's after Thanksgiving and we're probably all dealing with that, but this is a little bit different. When you're going to pour epoxy over organic material or porous materials, if it's got moisture in it, if it's got a porous surface or anything like that, you're going to get what they call degassing, which is the air and stuff trapped in it. Once you put that epoxy on it, is going to start trying to release. You can get bubbles. So the best way to handle that is I'm going to go ahead and coat this. I'm going to use a foam brush, and I've already went through the steps of mixing up my epoxy and getting it ready. It's been sitting a little bit. I'll do a different video over how to mix and stir properly. With this, I'm going to use this epoxy. I'm just going to fill this all in. I'm going to sit it on this stand so if it drips, I can always sand the bottom to flatten that. But I basically just want to get a thin coat on this so I can seal it, so that later on when I pour the color in here, I won't have any gassing issues. It'll be sealed already. It's just going to be a thin coat. I'm not worried about it being super perfect because, like I said, inside here is going to get all filled up. And what I'm going to do is, once this has been coated with the epoxy, I'm going to paint it and get the outside finish done before I pour the inside parts here with a bright color or something to make it pop a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take some of this and dip the foam brush in here and get some soaked up in there. Oh, let me get my gloves on. You definitely want to use gloves when you're messing with this stuff. You don't want it on your bare skin. When working with epoxy, you always want to have good ventilation. If you can't have really good ventilation, I recommend wearing a mask anyway, regardless. I'm just, for right now, I'm shooting this. I'm not, but when I'm not filming, I'll wear a mask. I've also got my window open with the fan going to help pull the fumes away from me and to get it out of here. Even the stuff that says low VOC and low odor, I would still definitely wear a mask with that, because just because it doesn't have an odor doesn't mean that it's not damaging to your health. But anyway, we'll get this soaked up in here, and I'm going to squeeze it in to get it down into these grooves here where it's very rough cut. Just going to squeeze this to get it down in there and get it soaked really well. I also want to get some down in that hole where the drill bit made, because like I said, anything that's not sealed, when you go and when I go to pour the color in there, it has potential for the wood to degas and release air bubbles into the epoxy. And a little bit of air bubbles you can fight with a torch to get them out, and we'll go over that in another video as well. But if you were doing like a deep pour, like if you were going to submerge a piece of wood or something made out of wood, and you were going to do a deep pour and have it submerged, you would probably run into a lot of bubbles if you didn't seal it up good first. And I'll have to show some images of one of the first pieces I ever did that was a deep pour, and I used the wrong product. It wasn't designed for deep pour. It heated up super fast and just started curing right away. That's another problem with it. If you're not using a deep pour, you do any kind of submerges or anything like that, any kind of deep pour, make sure you got the right product. The product I had was not the right product, and you're only supposed to pour it a 1/4 inch thick at the most at a time. And I poured this thing about 4 inches thick, didn't know much about, just kind of jumped in and went with it. And it got super hot, and it just started boiling, and it cured right away. It got cloudy, and it was just full of bubbles. So do a little bit of research, double check the epoxy that you want to use if you get into doing any projects. And what's the saying? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Well, same thing with doing a little bit of research. You can save yourself a lot of time and money with looking into it and to get a feel for the product you're using and the desired outcome you want to have. I just want to squeeze and get it in here really well. I'm not too concerned about running at the moment. I'll take care of all of that. When I set it back down, I've got it elevated a little bit. I've just got a bottle cap taped to the table here so that if any of it does drip, it will form along the edges of the bottom, and then I can sand that down as opposed to having it on a flat surface and puddling and possibly having to sand the face of it. I don't want to do that. I want to save myself as much trouble as possible. Get it into the grooves, get it all in here, let that wood grain soak it up a little bit. Not worried about any kind of air bubbles from squishing it on there at the moment, because I'm going to go over it all again once I get it here to get everything smoothed out. And if I have to do some sanding to the face of it, I can. Like I said, I'm going to paint this before I do the color pour for the detail areas. And if I have any of this epoxy left over, I think I probably won't be able to use it, because dipping it onto here, even though I cleaned it off, I'm still getting a little bit of the charring and soot. And it's getting back in here. If I had left over, I was going to do a couple of these coaster pieces I have here that need a final top coat. And there's a process called doming that I use on those to try to avoid having to do a lot of sanding and polishing. Because right now I'm trying to supplement income and at the same time trying to work when I can and when the work's available, trying to save myself as much time as possible. But at the same time, I want to create a quality product. I don't want, sometimes I'm my own worst critic, but I want to save as much time as possible while still creating a quality product that I feel people would be happy with. Or even if they think it's ugly, I'd like them to at least be able to say, well, you did a good job on it, it's just butt ugly. At least they can pick it up and say, bless your heart. Just want to make sure you've got a good amount inside these areas here. And we want to get it down in that hole where the drill bit was. So you see that, it's going to squeeze that and let a lot of that seep out. And a lot of this is going to puddle up and run, so I'll come back every so often and check on it. This particular epoxy has a slow dry time, so it'll give me a lot of time to check and wipe off any runs that will cause more work later. And these pieces are kind of thinking they're going to be kind of like today's version of a pet rock. But we'll see. It could be a desk ornament or a paperweight, but there's not much use or need for paperweights anymore, which maybe that could be the whole point. Kind of maybe call it Paperweight 2020 or something. Who knows? Alright. So we'll set that there. I'm going to get a little bit more here on the top. This is where the end of the grain is. And so it's soaking it up, a lot more than the sides are. Get some more down here. Alright, so I'm just going to take the sponge, pull some of this back up. I'm going to treat this like painting and trying to keep everything in the same direction just so I don't have any weird streaks that show up. Or if they do have any streaks, I want to make sure that they all look uniform. I don't want any cross-hatch patterns. I'm going to squeeze some of this to get the excess off. And that way, it'll help me clean off the excess on the sides here. There's going to be some puddling in these holes here as it drains down. So you can use the sponge to suck some of that out. Just trying to coat the surface enough to seal it up. So any extra runs that we can get rid of will just help us in the next step to not have to do a lot of sanding before moving on to the next step. Because we have limited space and limited resources and time. So I'm trying to avoid doing a lot of sanding because when you're pouring epoxy, dust is not your friend. And being that I only have a limited space to work in, I have to coat it, and I have to sand it, I have to make sure that the room gets really clean really well because I just don't want to turn the fan on, pick up dust from sanding while I'm trying to coat something and have it fighting. So it's just trying to think ahead to keep me from having to work harder down the road because time is a big factor. At least, for me it is. Time right now is a big factor. So I want to try to think ahead and eliminate any hazards before I get to the next stage. I think we're good there. Got the excess cleaned off. This is going to seal up pretty nice. And it's also going to get painted. And it's probably sealed with some kind of clear coat, depending on if I want it to be a gloss finish, a semi-gloss finish, or if I want a matte finish for the background. Probably going to go with a matte finish so that when I pour the color, it will contrast nicely and pop a little bit, as they say. But we will leave that there and let that do its thing for a little bit. And the next step will be to sand off any runs or marks and get it painted up and start thinking of a color scheme for this one. And thank you all for joining me on this. Be safe, be friendly with each other, and please, right now, please be vigilant and keep wearing a mask. I know we have the vaccines on the way, but we still need to be vigilant, wear the mask until the vaccines are ready and being sent out for use. There's a lot of people out there that are high risk, and so just please keep in mind that the mask isn't just for you, it's for those around you, and you may end up saving somebody else's life, other than just your own. So thank y'all. Have a good one. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out my videos, and despite having the looks and charm of Ryan Reynolds, I still need your help. If you could hit the like and subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. You can also find my work on Etsy. Just look up the Ox Gallery. Link will be right here, and actually it won't be because I haven't figured all that out yet, but in the future I'll figure all that out and get like a link here. But you can go to Etsy and look up the Ox Gallery, and eventually I'll have it all figured out. But the subscribe button should be right here, and hopefully it's not right on the face, which it probably is, but please subscribe, please like, and please be patient, and I'll have better videos coming soon as I figure all this out. Thank you much.